the biggest challenge that I would say most people are running into if they're trying to approach a conversation, I don't know if there's really a bad way to do it, but number one, if you're a beginner and you're trying to get good, a lot of people go right into, hey, this is what I do, this is who I am, this is why I'm calling, and this is how I can help you, right? No one cares what you do. No one, cares how much, you can support them, what your product is until they know how much you care, right? And so at the end of the day, it's like there's a reason in a sales conversation, you don't pitch first, you pitch later, right? You build the value, and then you paint the picture, and you do all this stuff, then you explain the price, and right? So just remember that on the front end. I mean, don't be afraid to build rapport. I think that's just a very often overlooked thing that I see new salespeople struggle.
Welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My guest here today is Chad Aleo, who is the founder and CEO of High Ticket Sales Academy. Chad, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation as well, especially in the realm of sales, communication, all those types of conversations are something that I'm very interested and passionate about. So why don't we start off with you just telling everyone a little bit more about who you are, a little bit more about High Ticket Sales Academy, and anything else you'd like to share about the business.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, gosh, just so you guys know a little bit about me, I grew up in Michigan, and really my sales journey, I always like to start here. I started as a door-to-door salesperson, okay? I actually did the purest form of sales, knocked on doors in a place I'd never been in my life. My job was to sell stuff to people that had no idea that was even coming to their door, right? And so I actually had a lot of success in that. I sold educational books door to door as a college student, and really kind of paved the way for me when it came to sales. Realized I had a lot of success of that, paid for my college tuition, and which led to running businesses. And now, what was just referred to as High Ticket Sales Academy. That's the business that I run now, CEO and founder of that. And essentially what we do is we help already proven sales professionals successfully transition into the industry of remote high ticket sales.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. And key point there is already proven. I think there's so many gurus out there. They're like, yeah, we got this, or like I have the best salespeople. But we often know that that's not usually the true. So I want to start the conversation by asking you, Chad, what do you think are the biggest mistakes salesmen or just people that are really focused in communication when it comes to their title or their roles within a company? What do you think are some of the biggest mistakes they make when trying to approach a conversation that they think is the right way, but it usually just crushes them?
Great question. So what the biggest challenge that I would say most people are running into if they're trying to approach a conversation, I don't know if there's really a bad way to do it, but number one, if you're a beginner and you're trying to get good, a lot of people go right into, hey, this is what I do, this is who I am, this is why I'm calling, and this is how I can help you. Right? No one cares what you do. No one, cares how much, you can support them, what your product is until they know how much you care. Right.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, it's like, there's a reason in a sales conversation, you don't pitch first, you pitch later, right? You build the value, and then you paint the picture, and you do all this stuff. Then you explain the price, and right. So just remember that on the front end. I mean, don't be afraid to build rapport. I think that's just a very often overlooked thing that I see new salespeople struggle with.
Awesome. Interesting. Yeah. After having over 200 conversations, which is crazy to say a number now out loud, it's interesting to hear how many people or how many companies are so used to just going for the pitch so far ahead of time without even understanding if, first of all, it's someone that they can actually help. It's like, hey, is this actually someone who I can benefit, but also someone that I can actually give the right tools to succeed in whatever they want? Because sometimes it's not the case, but you don't know that until you build that rapport, until we have that conversation. But it's people just chasing the sale. It's like, I love the term commission breath. I know it's such a commonly used term, but it's like, oh man, we everybody can smell it from a mile away. Do you think that there's any best practices to build rapport the right way, start the conversation in the right aspect? Or is it more so just like a general discovery as people should do, but oftentimes they don't?
Authenticity wins every time. If you're in sales, don't try to think of the perfect way to do something. Okay. I mean, for me personally, if I'm chatting with someone, and a very easy question that is not odd to ask is, hey, before we get started, I'm always curious, whereabouts are you from? Right? Someone's going to say wherever they're at, North Carolina. Oh my gosh. Are you a North Carolina Tar Heels fan? Michael Jordan
Mm,
went there. You must. Do you like basketball? Right? You can just make a connection if you want to off of something like that. So,
mhm,
but be authentic about it, because at the end of the day, a lot of salespeople are doing it just to do it, to ask the question. But you should
mhm,
do it to seek clarity and to make a connection. Like, sales is about the intention behind the
mhm,
question, not just to ask to ask. And that's
mm,
where I see a lot of salespeople really screw up in
mm.
sales, and they don't realize that there's a reason you're asking a question,
Yeah,
because we want them to feel and think and say a certain way, but you also got to understand, internalize, so you know how to respond, build that connection, carry on, and move the sales process forward.
oh, interesting. It's kind of like they're just reading the script line by line as opposed to the actual intention behind it, like the purpose of the questions. So it becomes very surface level for them. Does that sound about right or no?
Exactly.
Huh.
100%.
Have you found that? I'm not entirely sure how you guys do everything on the back end, which we'll of course dig into. But personally, I've found that using frameworks is so much more viable than, of course, scripts, because scripts are just line by line things, right? Frameworks is like, hey, here's what you're trying to find out here. Here's what you're trying to find out there. Here's the purpose why you're trying to figure these things out. But if it can, of course, weave the conversation, as opposed to like a script, which is, I think, how many companies do it, is like line by line, but no conversation ever follows a perfect script ever. So is that something that you guys also adopted, and sorry, utilize internally to for yourselves, but also for training your clients as well, using frameworks as opposed to line by line scripts?
Yes. So we teach a full framework of how you can sell. Now, what I like to call it is a sales conversation structure, not a script. Okay. Now, when you're brand new, don't freak out if somebody gives you a sales script. Okay. Because the reason being is that when you have a sales script, it's showing you what you should say to fill in all the gaps, because you are brand new to the industry. You've never sold the product they're selling. And when you're brand new, your goal should be to memorize that script. Okay. Not in a way because that's the only way you're going to sell. But once you get good, once you've been in the sales role for about a month, if you understand the flow of the conversation, you have the ability now to go a little bit off script. Okay.
Mhm.
And this is where what we teach is mastering the sales conversation structure, and where it becomes a lot of fun, because now you're going with the flow of how the conversation is, and based on the questions that you're asking and the responses you're getting. You're not just trying to fit a circle into a
Yeah.
square pegged hole, right? And so, but the biggest thing is, yes, you got to master it first. And
Mhm.
everyone gets all worried about scripts, but I'm telling you, when you're absolutely brand new, it is smart to memorize. And then once you memorize and master, now you can veer off the script to where
Mhm.
it's like, okay, hey, my goal in this section of the sales
Yeah.
conversation is I need to master goals. I need to figure out like what they're trying to accomplish. Then I need to figure out like what is holding them back from achieving those goals. Now
Mhm.
I got to transition to, of course, pitching the product, whatever. But you don't have to follow something word for word to do that. Okay.
Mhm.
So you don't sound like a robot.
Yeah.
But when you understand where you're going, that's when it gets fun. But again, scripts are good to help you when you're brand new. They're not
Mhm.
for you to rely on
Mm.
all the way through your sales career.
Yeah, awesome. Talk to me a little bit more, Chad, about the sales people that you're helping now. You mentioned that they are the proven before. What does that actually mean? Does that mean that they're actually working within certain corporations, and you're working with specific departments, or are you working with individuals that have sales experience before, maybe like yourself, that have done door to door in the past? Who are these individuals that you're actually helping?
So High Ticket Sales Academy, again, what we do is if you're in a sales job right now, or maybe you want to be in sales, you've been told you should be in sales, whatever. What our company does is we take someone like you and we transition you into this life-changing industry that I like to call remote high ticket sales.
Mhm.
And I started out as someone that was door to door, and then I ran an insurance business for 5 years, had over 20 agents, 2 locations. And I started thinking to myself, man, I want to do more. There's got to be a better job out there. Okay. And so I come across this online sales industry, which is really known as the e-learning industry. If you want to Google this, type in e-learning industry growth, and you'll
Mhm.
see that Google has it ranked at a 800 billion dollar industry by the end of 2030. And so what it is, it's coaching, it's consulting. You've probably heard of people like Tony Robbins, John Maxwell, Jenna Kutcher, Mel Robbins. They all have coaching programs that they sell at a high dollar if you want to do some consulting with them. And
Mhm.
typically those products range anywhere from 2,000 to 45, $50,000. And so what happens is, for someone to make an investment in a service like that, they don't just land on a website and then it says $50,000, submit payment, and they pay it. They
Yeah.
usually need to talk to somebody on the phone. And this is where what we like to call remote high ticket closers come into play. And this is what we train salespeople on, how to effectively be a remote closer to close those types of deals. And so it's an awesome industry because it's not, number one, it's a remote career. But number two, it allows you to make an incredible income off this type of sale because there's not a lot of there's just not a lot of overhead to create that type of a product, right? From that standpoint, that's why it's one of the best industries, ranked currently right now in the space. But we do try to get sales professionals that have been in sales because they're a lot easier to train. They understand how to sell already. Now it's just how do we take what you already know and mold it into this environment at the end of the day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. But they're not necessarily in a corporation. It can be just like a contractor salesman with that experience or whatever it might be as well.
Correct. It could be any type of sales, and then we transition them over.
That makes sense. Yeah, that clarifies it. And I think it's so awesome as well because I often like the saying where it's the same amount of effort to sell something that's $100 or to sell something that's $50,000.
Correct.
It's the same struggles and everything else. Just the type of person that you're actually selling to is like the person with $100 and they have to spend that and they have $200 in their bank account. That's 50% of their actual net worth. They're like, oh, what exactly am I getting for $100? But then the person with 50K is like, yeah, I just sent you the wire. Did you get it? It's a completely different conversation. So it's such a higher leverage activity. So when it comes to creating this better environment to allow the high ticket closers to do their job really well, have you found, I know that there's so many gurus and lessons and videos and people that say, hey, do this, do that. Have you seen something or some patterns recently of people saying do this, but it's actually not the best practices? So they're giving wrong, terrible advice to people when they should actually be doing other things. So I guess my question is, have you seen some really bad advice recently? And what has that advice been?
Oh man, that's a great question. You never really get ones like that. And I'm not going to name any names, but yes, I have. And it's interesting, like for someone like me, I don't mean to, brag, but it's one of those things where I've done over $20 million in sales personally in less than 5 years. Okay. And that being said, when I watch some content, there are some people that are really good. I'm like, man, I'm so glad that you're a sales trainer. Right. But then I see some content where I'm like, that guy probably only did sales for less than a year. Right. And they're teaching the wrong thing. And so one thing I did come across recently is there was a gentleman, I'm not, like I said, no names, but he was against the follow-up. He said, if you're following up with salespeople or with clients as a salesperson, you're shooting yourself in the foot and people are never going to buy. You should be trying to do everything you can to close them on call one. And I thought that was such terrible advice. Because man, oh man, it doesn't mean that you should follow up and fold every time someone gives you objection. That's not what that means. But what we teach is like, hey, if somebody gives you an objection, let's call it the spouse objection. Because I think this is where it could make a ton of sense. And what we teach is like, hey, how do we answer that objection 3-4 times? Be pleasantly persistent, not high pressure, but like pleasantly persistent where you're asking for the sale, you address their concerns, we got a whole method of how to do all that stuff. And if you try 3, 4, 5 times and it's just like, okay, clearly not budging, the person just says, Chad, I really want to do this, but I just know my husband, he's going to, there's just no way. There's just no way. And you've just, like I said, brick walls there, whatever. It is okay to do a follow-up. It doesn't mean they're going to buy, but the rule number one, I talk about this in my book, the book on high ticket sales, 48 hours. Give yourself 48 hours to reschedule an appointment with somebody within that time break. It's called the rule 48. The chances of them actually buying within 2 days of the initial conversation goes way up. Don't schedule it a week later. Okay. But you're also going to find, just like sales in general, if you set a number of follow-ups, most of them aren't going to come through, but some will, and it'll be gravy. And sometimes that person just needs an extra day. The amount of business I've closed because someone just was like, this sounds exactly it. Like, you addressed all my concerns. Can we just chat tomorrow first thing in the morning? Sure. Let's do it. Then they buy. Right. And then I've also had the ones that don't, but I've closed millions of dollars in follow-ups. So anyone that's telling you don't follow up and you need to do everything you can, then that person's dead to you if they don't buy. Terrible advice. Absolutely terrible advice.
I had never heard that before. That's an interesting one. And I hope you may block that person off social media so they don't come up again. But it's an interesting one because I think we always like the sauces in the follow-up, the secrets in the follow-up, whatever. And it's like, it's always just being able to gauge the conversation and the situation to adapt to whatever's happening. Like, doesn't mean that people have to always just give you the money right there and then. And if it can do it, great. But if not, then every case is always going to be different. And I wanted to ask you, Chad, how have you found, or how much of a big difference do you think there is when it comes to B2B sales as opposed to B2C sales, both in the high ticket environments? I think from the experience that I've gathered so far, which is probably much less than you, there all sales have some emotional aspect to it, but of course B2B, there has to be some logic, there has to be numbers, it has to make sense, the ROI has to be there, the value has to be extremely clear. But when you're approaching that situation, do you think there's a huge difference in the approach of how you should have that conversation to possibly lead that to a higher chance of success?
Great question. So there's two questions in there, which is one, how do you lead the level of success in the business to business environment? But then also you said, what was the difference in B2B and B2C? And so first thing I'll touch on is like the difference. And so business to consumer versus a B2B sale. Now, B2C is just a faster speed to transaction. Okay. If you're someone that doesn't want to wait 6 months and have to play this game, or 3 months or whatever to close a deal, because it's like a 5-step or sales process, you're going to love B2C because your opportunity to close a sale is like on that call. Okay. And that's what most people that are successful in B2C industries are doing. And so it's just much shorter sales cycle. It's a higher likelihood of speed to transaction, and you can make a lot of money in a short period of time. But again, it just depends on what you prefer. Now, to go to the second question, which was more about like the B2B side, what can help facilitate that process more effectively? There's two things. Number one, you still got to make an emotional connection with whoever you're talking to initially. Okay. Sales is always a transfer of emotion. And so you need to have some level of enthusiasm, which doesn't mean you're acting like a crazy idiot, but enthusiasm can be just caring about what you're doing, caring about the person you're talking to, and they can like feel that on the other end and the way that you're speaking, tonality, right? But at the end of the day, the most successful people in the business to business space, what they're doing is they're always moving the sale forward. So they never get off a call without setting very clear expectations of the purpose of the next call. But not even just setting clear expectations of the purpose of the next call, they're making sure that they're moving closer to getting the right decision maker on the following call. Because what shoots a lot of brand new business to business salespeople in the foot is they have like 5 meetings with someone, and then they find out meeting 5 when they're thinking they're closing the deal. Well, actually, Chad, I can't make that decision. Well, shoot, why did we just meet 5 times? Why didn't you bring on Dave? Right. And it's like, that is up to you as a salesperson to make sure you're getting that information and doing everything you can to get the right person on, because at the end of the day, no one's going to sell it better than you are. And so you need to make sure you do that effectively. But anyways, and then last thing I would just say is just, again, move the sale forward. Don't not set appointments and leave stuff in the abyss, the sales abyss, where it's like, oh, I'll email you.
Yeah, follow up to email.
Yeah, it never happens. It never happens.
Yeah, it never happens. Never. It's so funny. It's so funny you bring that up, because it's such a recurring pattern for so many people that I speak with. It's like, oh, I can't figure out why the call never came through later. Like, hey, you just didn't follow the simple principles. Just like move it forward, be clear about what's happening, and just always book a call from a call. Bam, fam, as much as possible. Bam, fam, bam, fam, bam. Always, always, always. And it's interesting. I wanted to hear from you, Chad. What do you think are some of, and I know it's never going to be just a one specific answer, and we kind of alluded to some of this answer through our conversation already. But what do you think is maybe the best 1 to 3 tips or frameworks that you can use to really allow someone to improve their sales skills much, much faster?
Thick skin. Develop thick skin. If you want to improve your sales skills, you need to stop trying to figure out the perfect words to say, and you need to develop thick skin. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay. Too many salespeople, whether you're even good or you're brand new, you're just not patient enough, because you've gotten told no so many times that you get to this place where rejection gets in your brain, that it doesn't work. You're not as good enough. So you think, oh, I need to go practice all this objection handling skills and say stuff the right way. And then all of a sudden it doesn't work. And then you start freaking out that you're bad at this job. You need to go find a normal 9 to 5. It's not true. Okay. Sales, you lose more than you win. So you need to develop thick skin, because that is how the game is played. The best salespeople close 20 to 30%. That means 70 to 80% of people are constantly telling them no. And so you want to be good at sales, you got to develop a thick skin that allows you to push through the noise and to push through all the pain to find the golden goose egg to be more successful. That's just part of the game. That's how you win. You got to realize it
Mhm.
is a numbers game, but once you master the thick skin, then it becomes a skills game.
Mhm.
Then you can figure out, how do I get better?
Amazing. I like that. I like that. Especially you lose a lot more than you win, which is the part that people don't see.
On paper,
Business.
exactly.
Yeah, like they're like, hey, you're doing, but exactly as you said, on paper, because all those losses are giving you that experience to actually improve everything in the back end. Anyways, but it's awesome. It's great that you brought that up. And I wanted to ask you, for the company itself, you guys are running, of course. I'm assuming you want to keep growing. I think that's a safe assumption to make. And when you're looking at the company goals, I don't know exactly what they are, but there's probably targets, places you want to, specific parameters that you want to achieve, maybe a revenue target. When you're looking at these goals, I wanted to ask you a question that I've been asking everybody that's been on the podcast, so you will also be a victim of it. Let's say you had a magic wand, Chad, and I'm sure you ask this question all the time, or you've definitely asked it in the past as well in conversations. But let's say you had a magic wand and you could just solve one issue in the company, looking towards the goals, maybe a problem, a challenge, an obstacle, whatever that might be. And you wave this amazing wand and it just solves just one thing in the business that would allow you to achieve all those goals that you're looking to achieve. What's the one thing that you'd like to solve in the company?
So there's multiple things that come to my brain because there's
always.
but in this space, I'm actually going to say probably the magic wand. If I could really wave a magic wand, I would put it on an aspect of my clients. And here's what I mean by that. Not saying, I know they're not like necessarily in my business, but their results are tied directly to if I think our business is a success, right? We have a massive goal. We want to change 100,000 lives and helping sales reps find way better careers so they can live better lifestyle, better freedom. They can spend time with their family, make more money, all the things that everybody wants out of life, right? And so I think if I can wave a magic wand, it would be more along the lines of clients and customers, and this probably goes in any industry in high ticket. They just they have the ability to take ownership for their success. Now, what do I mean by that?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that the company that they invest in isn't invested in their success. That's not true. Okay. But what it means is that you're investing in a company to help you get somewhere faster. But man, oh man, the clients that do the best in my program, they do everything we teach. And I'm not saying they always go above and beyond and do crazy things that's not expected, but they take their success as their duty, and it's up to them. If it is to be, it's up to me mentality. Those clients have incredible trajectories of where they go in life, because that's how sales is. It's really in anything, right? You got to have this mentality that you can't have excuses. You can't just wait for someone to hold your hand and give you, $1 million. Like, hey, if you want $1 million, go get it, go make it happen. And so I think in this space, it would just be allowing customers to take a little bit of extreme ownership. Okay. And realizing that, hey, my success depends on, am I willing to do the things? And am I willing to be coachable? Not just hope that someone holds my hand and does everything for me, right? And at the end of the day, everything runs way smoother for the business, right? And I don't know about you, but some of my best clients have just been people where they do everything we teach, right?
Always.
And when they do everything you teach, they have success. And then they do a couple of extra things, and you're just like, wow, what a big surprise. But the ones that are always the drag are the ones that are just like, hey, they're not doing all this stuff. I did it's like, why haven't you applied any roles? Why haven't you done this? Why haven't you done that? It's like, oh, I didn't, make me, whatever. Right. And so just like anything in life, what you put in is what you're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
And so that would probably be number one. Okay. That'd be the number one thing. And then, if I was to say within the business, as of the stage that we're at right now, is probably also an accountability thing, even just for my team, right? I mean, we have an awesome team, right? I'm so thankful to have people that are willing to go above and beyond and do all the things. But I want my team to have a mentality of thinking bigger for themselves and what's possible within the company. And what do I mean by that? So we're growing like crazy. I think we're hiring again. I just posted something on LinkedIn today about it. And there's so much opportunity for leaders, and I want people to already be leaders when they come. I want them to act like a leader. They don't need to be a title. They don't need to have a team of 5 under them to be a leader. Everybody's a leader. And to take that ownership, man, like that would be the one thing that would accelerate this business like crazy, from that standpoint, because at the end of the day, right? You want a business to grow. People grow your business.
Yeah.
I don't grow it. It's the people behind it, right?
I love that answer, and it sounds like they're both kind of intertwined in a way, and let me know if you agree with this. It sounds like they're both kind of based on a level of trust, I guess, as within you or the company as the vehicle that they're using, and a level of trust of like for the customers, like, hey, I know that if I put my full effort into this one thing that Chad is telling me or High Ticket Sales Academy is telling me, then I will be able to achieve XYZ. But at the same time, internally, it's showing that trust, showing that messaging that you guys have for the employees of like, hey, you can dream bigger. Trust yourself to dream bigger and achieve those things because we have the process that will allow you to uplift to that position that you're looking for. Does that sound about right or no?
Yeah, yeah, it does. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
You just got to be coachable. I mean, the biggest thing is like, they say you can take a horse to the water, you can't force him to drink it. And so it's really important that as a client, even as just in anything, it's like, hey, you can get to a place where your success is up to you. Man, oh man, if you can understand that mentality, you will accomplish so much in your life.
Actually, I ask you something about the horse water thing because that's something that we hear all the time, right? You can't make it drink it. And I believe Alex Ramosi said, wait, not Alex Ramosi. Alex Ramosi quoted someone, and he said, "Oh, actually, I think I can make it drink it. Like if you bleed it out enough, put it under the sun, like dry it up, like I think I will eventually be able to make it drink." But with that analogy, do you think it can also be a way of framing the right message to the right person to make sure that they take that action on their own if they can relate to the thing? So of course the horse, like we're not going to bleed out a person and dehydrate them,
Sure.
but with the actual messaging it like, hey, this is something that is under your control. If you put within these parameters, this framework, this value that you get, then we can have a higher chance of them taking that action. Do you think that's also translated to the sales?
Yes. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
When you have a path and a plan,
Yeah.
but it's also the right actions,
Yeah.
right? You feel more confident about taking the action, right?
Mhm.
That's why in this space, it's so great to work with a company that can show you the way and save you the time,
Yeah.
the frustration, the energy,
Mhm.
right? They're going to tell you exactly what to do the first time so you see a result the first time.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of being coachable and obviously implementing what is being taught to you,
Yeah,
right?
I love that. I love that, and I think it's always important as well to just every time there's an opportunity that you're hopping into, be it a sales training. It's like you walk into that opportunity saying like, I am gonna be the best student that there has ever been here. I will get the best results, but of course, put the right actions and the results and the actions and the intention behind it to actually achieve those things. Chad, I have one final question for you here. I know we're kind of going over time, um, but it's actually not a question from me. It's a question from our last guest to you. And here's what they wanted to ask. They had no idea who you were. You ready?
Let's hear it. This is fun.
All right. What programs or tactical actions have you found to be the most useful to ensure employee upskilling, but most importantly, employee retention?
Love that. So number one, I think the biggest thing is having consistent, what I like to call stay interviews. Okay. And so too many people, every company has exit interviews where they're like, oh, cool. Like someone leaves. Why did you leave? Why did you want to go? Blah, 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 blah. But you should actively be having stay interviews with your top performers. So you can already think of who they are. And honestly, it should be with everybody,
Yeah.
right? Where you have your 1 year evaluation and then you should schedule a stay interview, right? And it's not just it's not like a, how do I put this? It's not a asking them to stay because they're already there. It's,
Yeah.
hey, for you to stay here for another 2 years, okay, what would you like to see happen? What would you like to see change? Okay. And is there anything that we need to be aware of that can cause you to see this as a long-term employment process? That, oh man, that is an absolute game changer for any company. You got to conduct stay interviews to just get a feel where your team's at, because most of the time you have no idea. You don't have any pulse on where someone's head's at, why they're getting ready to leave. And all of a sudden they're leaving and you're confused. Then you try to like backpedal and say, well, hey, wait, don't leave. We'll pay you more money. We'll do all this stuff. But they're already out the door. They already accepted the job.
Yeah.
And if you were aware that they wanted an extra $5,000 a year, if they wanted to do more work, if they wanted to feel more, aligned in XYZ, you could at least combat that sooner rather than later. And again, you'd be making a huge mistake as a business owner if you're not conducting stay interviews in addition to your 1 year overall kind of recap with your team members.
Amazing. Good stuff, Chad. That's a phenomenal answer. I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that, but you exceeded my expectations. I love that answer. Chad, thank you so much for your time. This has been such an awesome talk. Where should people go if they want to learn a little bit more about you, about the business, and also maybe that book that you mentioned?
Yeah, so there's a couple different places. So if you want to find and learn more about High Ticket Sales Academy, you can go to highticketsalesacademy.com. You can also read my best-selling book, The Book on High Ticket Sales. And of course, you can follow me on LinkedIn, Chad Aleo, Aleo. You can also find me on Instagram, which is just Chad Aleo, is the handle name, and look forward to connecting. But again, check us out at highticketsalesacademy.com.